Today in our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast, we're in chapter 7 of Job. We're looking at more of his first rebuttal to Eliphaz and the friends who are challenging him. And they've come to comfort him to begin with. Now they're saying the way we're going to comfort you is by showing you that you must have done some awful things for God to have done these awful things to you. And so they're going to try to point that out. Eliphaz has said, I know I'm right. I've investigated it. I've watched other people, and I've had a vision of some sort that he believes gives him the right to have the authority to say to Job, you have done wrong. Job's pushing back on all of that and saying, show me where I'm wrong. That's where we left off yesterday. Show me where I'm wrong. If I've done that, chapter 6, verses 24 and 25, Job doesn't see it. And in chapter 7, we pick up the second half of this particular dialogue from Job. And he says here in verses 3 and 7, I am miserable. So we get some insight right now into the very depth of the painfulness physically that Job is going through. It says in verse 3 of chapter 7, so I'm appointed months of worthlessness and nights of trouble are appointed me. If I lie down, I say, when shall I rise? When the twilight continues, I am saturated with tossing until dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and a crust of dirt. My skin scabs over and flows out again. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and come to an end without hope. Remember that my life is but wind. He is miserable physically, emotionally, spiritually, and he's troubled by his friends. This is a miserable man, and we understand that. We get that, and we need to understand just how bad things are for him. But we find now that he's moving into a place of bitterness. And this is a place we never want to go. It doesn't help anything. It makes everything worse, and it's a wrong reaction to the troubles of life. But this is where Job is going. And it's a natural response, and so we understand how that can happen to any of us. In verse 11, he says, indeed, I will not hold back my mouth. I will speak in the distress of my spirit. I will muse on the bitterness of my soul. He's going to meditate on his bitterness. So now he's become bitter and he's meditating. He's pondering on his own bitterness. That's not a good place to be, folks. We should battle with all of our hearts any kind of bitterness towards other people, towards ourselves and our choices, and towards God. To become bitter is poison to the soul. And we find Job going into that situation where he is poisoning his very own self in bitterness. He's also critical. In verse 14, it's a little hard to tell, but he says, then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me by visions. It's a little hard, I believe, to tell whether he's criticizing Eliphaz for claiming his authority based on visions and dreams, or that he's criticizing God for giving him nightmares. It could go both ways here, I think. I think he could be very angry at Eliphaz's supposed dream, which whatever that wasn't part of his authority. He had no authority in that. Or he could be honestly mad at God because when he sleeps, you know how it is when you're sick and you have dreams. They're often very unpleasant dreams. And so he's terrified by that. And so could be critical of God here as well. But we do know he wants God to leave him alone. Verse 16, he says this, I have rejected everything. I will not live forever. Leave me alone, for my days are but a breath. What is man that you magnify him, or that you set your heart on him? Lord, why don't you just leave me alone? I just want you to keep your hands off of me and let me go on. Let me die. That'd be okay. I'm not going to live forever, but let me die soon. Take your hands off me and walk away. And then finally, though, he challenges God. If he can't make God take his life or leave him alone, but he feels he can challenge God. And so he does so in verse 20. He has challenged Eliphaz earlier. Now he challenges God. He says in verse 20, have I sinned? What have I done to you? He's talking to God. O watcher of men, why have you set me as your target so that I am a burden to myself? Once again, a target. Lord, why have you set me up as your target? Why are you shooting your bitter arrows into my heart and my soul? I challenge you, God. What have I done to you? And so he's bought into a little bit to the worldview of Eliphaz, that he wouldn't be going through hard times if there wasn't something wrong. But he doesn't know what is wrong. He wants God to show him what is wrong, and he wants to know why God has made him his target. So he first of all, he wants God to show him what's wrong, but he also has now a view of God, that God is his enemy and shooting these poison arrows into his soul. No wonder he's bitter, because this is how he's now thinking. And this whole process is revealing something in Job that we didn't know was there in chapter 1 and 2. But God knew it was there, and God's going to root it out. And so we're going to follow that up as we go throughout the book. Hope you can keep with us as we look at these chapters together.